So I want to spend 10 minutes now just kind of talking you through who we're Infonetica, so you know where we're coming from as a company. The company started in 2003 and originally was in the ethics space, but we developed IRAS, which most of you are familiar with, the national ethics system for the UK, and supported that for many years successfully. We've now sold that to the HRA, but we've taken that experience and also the experience of ReDA. So ReDA was our first software as a service product. So that's where we take one product, we kind of make it customizable, and we give it multiple institutions to use. So ReDA is used by lots of hospital trusts, it's used nationally as well. I'll talk a bit more about it in a second. But we really took that kind of model of one system for many people, plus our expertise in ethics from doing IRAS, and use that, as ReDA said, to put together EthicsRM, which does both of those things. So it's a system that is used now by some very small universities who have maybe one committee, maybe a very simple form, to some of the biggest universities in the UK, also by some international organisations that span multiple institutions. So we try to make one system that does suit for all of that. Other than that, we've got two products which I'll talk about quickly. So Tissue Auditor is a product that's used by tissue banks to manage tissue samples and to maintain compliance with things like the HTA. And Whitehall Training is an online training platform where you can do things like good clinical practice. It's an easy way for investigators to stay up to date with all their training requirements. So I'll talk about each of those in a little bit more detail. As I said, Whitehall, online training, all your training's in one place. And there's a number of benefits for that. You can do different courses there. All the courses are accredited, so things like Transcelerate have approved our courses, so it means they tick the relevant boxes. As an administrator, it's really helpful because you have one platform where you can see the progress of all of your trainees. So if all of your trainees have done a course, you can see the questions that they've struggled with, you can see the parts of the course they've glossed over, bits where they've focused on, and it can help you to tailor training to what they really need. And it's also a platform where you can add your own courses to it. So maybe you have other courses other than the ones that we host that you want to put on the platform. You can do that, so you've got one place where you can do all of your training. Tissue Auditor, as I said, is a product that's used by tissue banks, and it's used, I guess, in two main objectives. One is to keep compliance with things like the HTA. So if you're not familiar with it, the HTA is the Human Tissue Act, and the Human Tissue Authority regulate all tissue banks to make sure that they track where tissue samples have been, whether consent has been gained, and Tissue Auditor does all of that. So you can log all of your samples on there. You can set up your kind of physical layouts, like these freezers, and then you can actually move the samples from one place to another, and it will track where each sample has been, who's done what to it, so that if you are inspected, which all HTA licensed institutions need to be, they'll be able to see all of that information. But it also improves efficiency. It's, from my point of view, from the other systems that I've seen, by far the most easy to use tissue management system that's out there. We've designed it to try and be so that if somebody's only using it once a month to check some samples in or check them out, they can still sit down and use it really easily. ReDA, as I mentioned, has been going for over 10 years now, I think about 12 years ReDA has been going, but we've recently revamped it and given it a fresh look and feel. And it's used for managing largely clinical research, but any research you can put in there. You can manage the approvals for that research on ReDA, you can manage recruitment onto the study, and record a whole host of other information, so things like costing you can do on ReDA as well. It's integrated with other systems, it's integrated with ERM, it's integrated with IRAS, you can automatically pull information into it and out of it. And it's got a powerful reporting feature, so I guess the main benefit of ReDA is that you have all of your research information in one place, so you can pull any information out of it. And it's used by hospital trusts, also used by some universities as well, particularly universities where they do some clinical research within the university, so they've got clinical trials units. A lot of them successfully use ReDA. And it's used nationally for approvals in Wales and Scotland, and we're pleased to say as well that as of Friday we've been awarded the contract for Wales, or by Wales, to use ReDA to manage all portfolio research that goes on in Wales. So that was a very good thing for us. And then EthicsRM, so this is what we're going to spend the rest of today talking about, and I know is why you're all here. I thought before we get into the detail, and Vish will take us through some of the details in a minute, I just wanted to tell you some of the things which our customers say to us. Some of this is feedback from some people in the room here, some from other people, and hopefully this will resonate with you. So I put here some difficulties that people tend to face before they start using the system, and the benefits of the system once they go live. So, very common one is that people start from the point of having a paper, email-based system, which works fine. It ticks the boxes, but it takes a long time for people to administer. And once you get above a certain number of applications, it just becomes a bit unwieldy. Whereas EthicsRM automates that. It makes that process much easier. So you can build your own workflow into it, your own forms into it. You make it easier for people to submit forms. You stop information coming through on forms that shouldn't be there by putting restrictions, by saying which questions are mandatory. And then you can automate the workflow, so you can say, once they're submitted, who needs to review it based on the type of application it is. So it just makes everything much more streamlined and much more straightforward. Then we hear from people when we set up, they say currently our process isn't perceived as being consistent. They say we've got these different faculties, this one has a really comprehensive approach to ethics, this one doesn't, students don't feel it's fair, or researchers. Whereas implementing a system like this, which is one system, offers the opportunity to make everything consistent and to show that it's consistent. Because everybody is filling out the form, they can see when they answer a question why they've been asked that question, and the subsequent questions that they get asked. Compliance as well is a big issue in many places. So in many places, because if you're using a paper system, it's difficult to track what has happened to a particular application. Whereas EthicsRM keeps everything in one place. You can see a full history of who has reviewed it, of where it's been passed to, and the decisions that have been made. It's all held within one system. Reporting. I mentioned reporting in the context of ReDA, and it's also a big benefit of EthicsRM because, of course, all research studies for humans need to have ethics approval. So by having a system, an ethics system set up, you automatically have one place where all of your studies are held. And so the powerful reporting that's in EthicsRM at the moment means you can pull out any of that information. So it's a benefit that our customers tend to find over time. It's probably not the first thing you think about when you set up a system. But over time they realise that actually they have all this information at their fingertips that they can pull out and use to answer questions that maybe management have, or maybe to improve timelines. You can track how long things are taking. And reporting, because of that, is something actually that we want to focus on. We want to add new reports in constantly and make things more graphical and more easy to use. And that's something we're going to talk about later. And finally, this is, I guess, coming from a slightly different angle, but there's some people who've tried to build their own system, or maybe have their own in-house online system. And there's just a host of difficulties that come with that. So we hear people saying, well, this guy designed the system, it worked really well, but then he left, and now no one else knows how to use it. Or every time they need something added in, they have to go back to this guy, and he's very busy, he's doing all these other systems, and it takes ages to make a change. With EthicsRM, you get one system where you can make a change, you can update it, it's very flexible, but you can do that without going to any developers. We don't need to be involved, you can do it from the back end. But the system also is always evolving, so we know that regulatory requirements change over time, and your requirements change over time. And so we're always updating the system and making sure that it stays modern and up to date. So I hope some of those kind of resonate with you. I hope they're things which you can look at and think, either, yes, the system is doing that, or the system could do that for me in the future. And I thought I'd just finish with a couple of quotes from a couple of you on today. One is from Matthew, who's based up in Liverpool, and he's really a great example of that last point. Liverpool spent 2 years trying to develop their own system in-house. Matthew was here at the open day last year. It was the first time he'd seen the system. A few months later, they'd chosen it, and I went up there, me and John were there for, I think it was the second implementation meeting, so they were 2 weeks in, and it's when he said this to us, that it was the best piece of software that he had worked with. And I think the reason for that is he said, within 2 weeks, I've achieved more from kind of setting things up in EthicsRM than we did in 2 years beforehand trying to do it ourselves. And they recently rolled out the system a few months back, and the feedback they've had has been very positive since then. The other system I just wanted to, or customer I just wanted to talk about because they're a bit of a different customer, quite an interesting customer, is Clinical Trials Ontario. So we've got a few customers in Canada, and Clinical Trials Ontario, they manage multi-site trials across lots of different organisations in Ontario. And really they're a great example of how quite a complex organisation that has lots of different people who need to do things in different ways and a very particular process that they need to follow, how the system can be adapted. So that's my brief introduction. I'm going to hand over to Vish and John now, who are going to take us through some new features in the system, and some of the things we developed recently. As they do jump in with questions, if there are things that you don't know or that you're not sure about, please do ask. We want to stay speaking and as interactive as it can. So, Vish, over to you.